You check in, right?
Yes.
Okay. So we needed a Josh. Or. Alana to join.
Rhonda, it looks like we're still waiting for a few folks to sign in.
That is correct. Chair Williams, we have you and Director Harris online, and Director Vasquez is coming in now. And Director Mayor, you let me know he may be a few minutes late.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Proceed.
Good morning, everyone.
Morning, Director Vasquez. It is 10 a.m. Looks like we have quorum. Is that right, Rhonda?
We do, thank you.
And you said that Director Mayer may sign in a little bit late today.
Correct.
All right, I would recognizing it's 10 a.m. I'd like to call our meeting to order. We do a roll call, Rhonda.
Yes. Thank you. Chairman and members of the board, City of Flagstaff, Lori Matthews is excused. Coconino County, Geronimo Vasquez.
Present.
Thank you. City of Flagstaff, Miranda Sweet, excused. We do have City of Flagstaff, Deborah Harris, alternate with us.
Here.
Thank you. NAU, Josh Mayer is expected. And CCC, Tony Williams.
Present.
Thank you. We do have our attorney, Scott Holcomb, here in the room with us.
Morning.
Morning, Scott.
And we have staff here in the Vera room and on Zoom. I'll turn it back to you, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Rhonda. Before we get underway, just want to remind everybody that the Board of Directors may vote to hold an executive session for the purpose of obtaining legal advice from Mountain Lions attorney on any matter listed on the agenda pursuant to Arizona revised statutes. The executive session may be held at any time during the meeting, and executive sessions are not open to the public pursuant to Arizona open meeting laws. And so as we move forward with our agenda, before we move on to the safety minute, do have an unusual adjustment to our agenda today to table an item number 9. Heather, do you want to speak to this before we get started?
Yes, thanks, Chair Williams. Members of the board, I would like to recommend that we amend the agenda by official action to remove item number 9 and place it on a future agenda, as staff would like to take some more time to put together a plan for that discussion. We do believe we'll have members of the public that had planned to speak to this item. And so by tabling it and removing it now, we allow them the opportunity to participate under the call to the public and still represent their comments at today's meeting. So I'm recommending official action to amend the agenda and remove item number 9, zero fare policy discussion, and table it for a future agenda.
Directors, do I have a motion to approve? Motion to approve.
So moved.
Do I have a second? I will go ahead and second the motion.
Chairman Williams?
Yes.
The motion would be to table this item. To table this item for a future meeting.
Yes.
That is correct.
Thank you.
Any discussion? All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, it has passed unanimously. So moving forward with our agenda today, and before we get started, I just want to welcome Deborah Harris to our meeting as an alternate. Glad to have you here today, Deborah, and looking forward to your participation in our agenda's activities.
Thank you.
Safety minutes, Sam.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the board. So the April Safety Minute is on bicycle safety. May is National Bike Month, promoted by the League of American Bicyclists and celebrated in communities from coast to coast. So we wanted to get the warning out early so everyone could get prepared and get more information before May came about. Overall, the number of bicycle fatalities in the United States increased dramatically between 2012 and 2021. There were more than 230 additional fatalities while biking in 2021 compared to 2012. This increase is widespread, but 14 states and Puerto Rico saw a decrease in the number of bicyclist fatalities during the same time period. Arizona, however, was not one of those states. During that same period, Arizona's bicyclist fatalities increased by 20%. According to the League of American Bicyclists, here are 5 rules for the road that can help you have a safer bicycling experience. 1, follow the law. Your safety and image of bicyclists depends on you. You have the same rights and responsibilities as drivers. Obey traffic signals and stop signs. Ride with the traffic. Use the rightmost lane headed in the direction you are going. 2, be predictable. Make your intentions clear to everyone on the road. Ride in a straight line and don't swerve between parked cars. Signal your turns and check behind you before turning or changing lanes. 3, be conspicuous. Ride where people can see you and wear bright clothing. Use a front white light, a red rear light, and reflectors when visibility is poor. Make eye contact with others and do not ride on sidewalks. 4, think ahead. Anticipate what drivers, pedestrians, and other people on bikes will do next. Watch for turning vehicles and ride outside the door zone of parked cars. Look out for debris, potholes, and other road hazards. Cross railroad tracks at a right angle. Number 5, ride ready. Check that your tires are sufficiently inflated, brakes are working properly, chains run smoothly, and quick release levers are closed. Carry tools and supplies that are appropriate for your ride, and wear a helmet. For more information on bicycling statistics, and they have a great deal of those statistics, or safety information on bicycling, please visit bikeleague.org. Thank you and welcome to the April board meeting.
Sam, thank you very much. So now we are to the call to public. This is an opportunity for members of the public that are in attendance today to speak to items of concern or needs or requests, that type of thing, up to 3 minutes. Rhonda, do we have anyone from the public wishing to speak today?
We do have Mr. Jason Kordowski joining us on Zoom. Jason, are you with us?
Yeah, hi everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, Jason. Thank you.
Wonderful. Yeah, my name's Jason Kordowski, zip code 86017. I'm with Free Mountain Lion, a grassroots collective of Flagstaff area community members who are working to make Mountain Lion bus fare free. My public comment today is for the NAPTA Board of Directors. We write to encourage you to make Mountain Lion bus fare free. Cities across the country are removing fares from public transit from Tacoma to Albuquerque to Boston to increase ridership, boost local economies, reduce environmental impact, decrease traffic congestion, and provide transportation for low and middle income workers and families who often can't afford to drive a car or two as they face rising housing costs and inflation. And the move often makes financial sense. Nearly 1 in 5 of Flagstaff residents were living in poverty in 2021, 1.5 times the national rate. Researchers find that access to public transportation is one of the most important factors in determining a person's ability to rise out of poverty, stronger than crime, elementary school test scores, or the percentage of two-parent families in the community. Fares comprised only 4% of Mountain Line's operating revenues in fiscal year 2022 and 5% in 2021. Corvallis, Oregon began its fare-free bus system in 2011 when fares were 11% of its operating revenues. Kansas City started its fare-free bus system in 2019 when fares were 12% of its operating revenues. The cost of transitioning to a fare-free system is typically much less after accounting for the expense of collecting fares and the improved efficiencies of operating fare-free. Kansas City was spending $2 to $3 million annually to collect $8 million in fares, for example. Cities often find creative ways when necessary to offset the costs of fare-free system through grants, special tax districts, private sector sponsors, transit fees added to water bills to reduce administrative costs, and more. The price of making Mountain Line fare-free is low compared to the benefits it can provide to our community, economy, environment, and congested roadways. Will you join us in making Mountain Line fare-free? Sincerely, Jason Kwardowski, Joan Dewey, Leah Cox, James Appel, Arthur Cook, David Rasmussen, Madison Moran, Jan Flemons, Brian Baird, Megan Dales, Brian Dales, Hong Wen, Aaron Hilton, Walter Kaya, Mike Altland, Joe Bedoni, Brianna Frisbee, Aaron Hebert, and Tom Isaacson. And I just want to say that I asked if this letter that was sent to public comments could be submitted into the record of the meeting minutes. And I haven't received a clear answer as to whether or not it will be in the record of the meeting. Thank you.
Thank you, Jason. I believe your comments today, along with other letters we've received from probably several of the folks that you named in your comments today, I will confirm that the board of directors, each of us have received that information. And this morning we removed the zero fare policy item from our agenda to give you an opportunity to provide a public comment. And we will take your comments and the other letters we received in support of a zero fare policy into consideration as we move forward. Rhonda, do we have any other public comment today?
We had one other that voiced interest, Erin Hebert, which was mentioned in Jason's letter, but I do not believe she is on at this time.
Thank you, Rhonda. Heather, did you have anything to add to that? Your picture came up on my screen, so I wanted to make sure.
Sorry, I was just confirming for Wanda that the other public participant has not joined.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Jason, thank you for your comments today. We will absolutely take your feedback and whatnot into consideration as we move forward. Thank you so much. Moving on in our agenda, item number 5, Heather, I think is going to announce a milestone anniversary today.
Thank you, Chair Williams and members of the board. So I am joined by Teresa today. Just wave your hand. I think the video will pick you up. I hope you all can see her. Teresa joined our team 5 years ago as a transit bus operator. She currently is cross-trained into our paratransit division, and she acts as a relief supervisor supporting her peers and her teammates when she's serving in that role. So we're very excited to present her with a 5-year milestone anniversary award and celebration. And I know we did a celebration a little bit early with some events and activities late in March to celebrate her actually in the bus en route. And today I have for her gift card from Mountain Line for recognizing those 5 years. So this is for you, and thank you so much for coming, and thank you for your 5 years of service.
Oh, no problem. It's gone by fast, faster than I thought it was. So Yeah, it's been real challenging and I've learned still a lot. You never stop learning when you're in transportation. It's always something to update, you always stay updated and always something new.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Thanks for taking the time to come in today as well.
Give me
All right.
a break a little
Yeah.
bit. Bye, thank you.
Yes,
Thank you, Teresa.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Heather. Let's see. Looking at my agenda. Okay, moving on to approval of the minutes. Do I have a motion to approve our minutes from the March 22nd, 2023 meeting?
Excuse me, Chairman, I did want to let you know that the Director Mayor did join us.
Okay, great. Good to know that. Director Mayor, welcome to our meeting this morning. Would you cater a motion to approve our minutes from the March 22nd meeting?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Vasquez. Any discussion about the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor signal by saying aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Moving along in our agenda, discussion or action items today. Item number 7 is the fiscal year 2022 financial audit report. I believe that Josh Stone will be leading us through this discussion today. Josh.
Thank you. Good morning, Chair Williams and members of the board. I'm Josh Stone, Management Services Director here. So this agenda item is going to be fairly brief. I have no slides for it. Mountain Line is required by our IGA and state statutes to have an annual audit conducted by an independent firm after the end of each fiscal year. Once the report is issued, the board needs to approve the report, and then copy of the audit is filed with appropriate state and federal partners. For many years, we've contracted with accounting firm Fester and Chapman for this review and service. We have received the final issuance of our 2022 fiscal financial audit dated March 31st. We are required to complete and file it by March 31st. So to meet that filing deadline, the report was certified and submitted the same day. I believe the final report has been made available to you for your review in the agenda packet for today. So overall, the audit was fairly straightforward. All the financial statements were free of material errors. The underlying financial data was sound. No deficiencies were noted in our federal grant reporting. So that's all good news. Fester and Chapman did provide an opinion that the year-end closing process was not completed timely. And we had to complete some reconciliations and adjustments later than our regularly anticipated timeline. I think everyone is aware, particularly for the last fiscal year, that there were a lot of staffing challenges, and then ultimately a change of financial oversight to my position. As this was my first year completing the reporting, obviously I wanted to make sure that everything was thoroughly reviewed for accuracy and brought it as up to date as possible, which did result in a longer timeline. I think ultimately this was, this is worthwhile, as the financial statements were correct and we didn't need to have any errors with it. We did file a corrective action statement for this process and timeliness finding. Essentially, that will just review our established year-end closing procedures and timeline, and make sure that we're as timely and as adhering to those as we're able. I think we've already made some strides in this current fiscal year, keeping reporting very current. So the end of the year should not require, the end of this upcoming year should not require as sort of extensive of a review as it might have last year. So other than that, do want to thank everyone on staff. There's a lot of people that contribute every day throughout the whole year to making sure our records are accurate and everyone's following all financial policies and procedures. So we have a good outcome for the end of the year. So that, I believe that's all I have for this agenda item.
Thank you, Josh. Are there any questions from the directors? Yeah, hearing none. Josh, I do have one question. It's really more of a clarification on the completed and filed as required by March 31st. Does that happen typically before the board approves, or is that supposed to happen after?
Typically would happen after. They weren't prepared in time for the March board meeting.
Okay. Appreciate that clarification. It's helpful. So do I have a motion from the board to approve the fiscal year 2022 financial audit report as completed by Fester and Chapman PC and filed as required by March 31st, 2023?
Mr. Chair, I'll make that motion.
Thank you, Director Mayer. Do I have a second?
I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Vice Chair Vasquez. Any discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Anyone opposed? Hearing none, the motion passes. Thank you, Josh. Item number 8 today is the Metro Plan Mountain Line Coordinated Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan. And I believe Mitch Reddy will be presenting that today. Mitch, the floor is yours.
Cool. Thank you, Chair Williams, and members of the board. Thanks, Rhonda. Yes, I will be talking about the Coordinated Mobility Plan. And so the overall purpose of the Coordinated Mobility Plan is to improve transportation in our region for older adults and people with disabilities. It is updated yearly with a major update every 4 years, which happens to be this year. On this slide, the first update that we had was we updated the cover page. The Coordinated Mobility Council is made up of community members, Mountain Line, Metro Plan, people with disabilities, older adults, human service providers, and nonprofits. Over the last year, the Coordinated Mobility Council has met quarterly and helped brainstorm transportation gaps and prioritize new strategies that were made to address those gaps. So transportation gaps are split into 5 categories consisting of information, temporal, spatial, infrastructure, and human capital. From the brainstorm gaps in August, we created 8 new strategies and modified 2 existing strategies. Over the last year, since the last update, some examples of progress we have made so this is not an exhaustive list as well. This is some examples. We have received grant funding to address website accessibility. Mountain Line Go was a pilot program and now is a permanent program. The Commission on Inclusion and Adaptive Living has started working on mobility issues due to infrastructure. And we are also partnering with the city to improve access to transit within 3/4 of a mile. New strategies were added to every gap except for human capital. The gap with the most new strategies was infrastructure with 4 new strategies, and the second was information with 2. These new strategies, from these new strategies, the Coordinated Mobility Council has created 2 new subcommittees. The first subcommittee is Wheelchair Accessible Vehicle Committee that deals with the strategy, bring awareness to taxi companies about the need for wheelchair accessible vehicles. And the second subcommittee deals with the simplifying paratransit qualification process to reduce the amount of time and paperwork required to qualify. All of these new strategies are listed on the staff report. The things added to existing strategies, we added including flood-related barriers to the existing strategy of keep sidewalks free of ice and snow and clear of other obstructions strategy, as well as adding lighting code to review sidewalk curb ramp standards and lighting code to verify that they are accommodating people with mobility limitations. Additional updates were things like updating the service providers in the Metro Plan region, the census data information, FY 2022 and 2023 5310 regional grant projects, Coordinated Mobility Council meeting agenda and minutes. And this plan was recently adopted by Metro Plan's TAC and Executive Board last month. And we are seeking adoption from you all today. I can take any questions now.
Directors, do you have any questions for Mitch and his presentation in the proposal? Hearing none, I don't have any questions at this time either, Mitch. So I will cater a motion to I'll make sure I get this right. Adopt the Metro Plan and Mountain Line Coordinator Public Transit Human Services Transportation Plan as presented. Directors, do I have a motion? We're a very talkative bunch today.
Mr. Chair, I'll move to approve that plan.
Thank you, Director Mayor. Do I have a second? Thank you, Vice Chair Vasquez. Do we have any further discussion on this particular item? All those in favor of adopting this plan, please signal by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, motion passes. Thank you very much, Mitch, for your presentation today. Moving along to item number 10, and just for Director Mayor's benefit, if he's following along in our agenda this morning, we early in the meeting voted to table item number 9 from the agenda, which was the zero fare policy to allow for a public comment earlier in the meeting. So we will move to item number 10, which is the fiscal year 2024 capital budget presented by Heather this morning. Heather.
Good morning, Mr. Chair. Actually, there is a typo on the agenda and Josh Stone will be presenting this item. We apologize for the mistake.
All right. Thank you, Heather.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Chair. Today we're going to take a brief look at our fiscal year 2024 capital budget, following on what we have previously discussed with the workforce and operating budgets in the last couple months. We've had what seems like a quiet few years getting projects off the ground. dirt, through the design, and now to dirt being moved. So a lot of planning and design effort has taken place over the last several years, and I think the results will allow 2024 to be a more exciting year with publicly visible progress for some of our projects as they move into construction. So that said, the capital budget is listed here in sort of various self-explanatory categories, with a total that comes in at about 52.6 million. I've provided the 2023 budget and roughly where we can expect to end up for the current year. Anything not spent for 2023, which has already been budgeted and approved, will end up being a carryover budget. So I hope you can see that difference represented here. I didn't list that given the space constraints, but overall our new capital investments to approve are really just a small portion of this overall 52 million. So of course, the largest piece of the budget is the Downtown Connection Center, with about 2/3 of all of the spending. Hopefully most everyone has seen that the fencing is up and remediation of the old building on the site is underway. Hopefully you'll all be able to attend a groundbreaking in the next couple of months. And then over the next year, we'll see substantial progress on the site and all of those associated expenses. The CDL course at NAU has a very short single construction season timeline. Basically beginning now, there was a small groundbreaking last week, and the majority of that project should be completed by October. The vehicles and cast bar lines are a little bit intertwined. Some of the work to support charging infrastructure for electric vehicles, and appropriately sized vehicle maintenance bays, design of those. And then there are some smaller facilities projects like concrete replacement to keep the facility in a state of good repair. Those are all sort of really part of the larger goal of supporting the vehicle needs. I did want to note that the very top line is bicycle and pedestrian infrastructure improvements. That's grant funding that Mountain Line received and will be administering, but the project is sort of a city project, and the outcome will result in a capital asset for the city of Flagstaff. The city will provide the local match funding for the projects in this grant. You'll see that there's very little projected expense for this in 2023. Design is just now getting off the ground as those projects are being selected. Other than that, I didn't really plan to speak extensively about any of these projects. I think most of you are familiar with the larger projects. Kate and Anne and Heather, the whole planning team really regularly provide updates, particularly on the DCC. At the May meeting, we're going to be discussing the funding side of the entire budget, including this capital segment. But if anybody has any questions about a specific line, I'd be happy to entertain them. That's all I really have.
Great, thank you, Josh. Do we have any other questions from the board at this time? This is just an item for discussion today. I don't think we're making any formal decision here. Directors.
I have a question. Just so I understand right, it says FY23 budget and FY23 projected. What's that difference? Or what is that? Like, what's the projected piece? I didn't quite catch that.
Thank you for the question. The projected piece is just how much we're actually going to spend. So we had planned, maybe that the Downtown Connection Center was actually going to be in construction this year, and it's been pushed back several times. So it's really just the design money that's been spent this year for the most part. And then there'll be a little bit of remediation expense towards the end of this year, but the projected expense will be a lot lower than what was originally anticipated to be the budget.
Okay, so these projects in the budget that's in FY24 basically reflects that money being pushed over till next year for those projects?
Correct.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair Vasquez. Those are good questions, or Vice Chair Vasquez. Any other questions from the directors, Dr. Mayor? Director Harris? Hearing none, I'm sure.
I'm sorry. Yeah, no, I'm sorry. I was trying to find my unmute button.
Go ahead, Director Harris.
Oh, I was just gonna say, I don't have any questions because you asked me and I was trying to say no.
Great. I appreciate that. Yes, it does take us a little longer to grab that mute button. I've got to remind myself of that in these meetings. So thank you. Josh, I think we'll probably have more questions as we move forward in making other decisions in future meetings, but appreciate your time reviewing this with us today.
Thanks.
Moving on to item number 11 in our agenda, the bus stop equity analysis updates. Our capital project manager, and I hope I get your name correct. Is it Dunno?
Yes, Chair Williams, it's Dunno, as in I don't know. It's an acquired name, so.
The floor is yours, Ann.
Thank you, Chair Williams, members of the board. I'm here today, Ann Dunno, Capital Project Manager. I'm here to provide a bus stop, an update to our bus stop equity analysis to the board. We are not seeking any specific action right now, just general feedback and kind of a status update. In 2019, the board adopted the Mountain Line Transit Guidelines. That guiding planning document provided a framework for decision-making around everything from general service planning, but also integrating transit into the built environment. And really it's intended to be a tool for staff to use, staff to share with developers, third parties, interested parties in transit, to enable decision-making specifically around this agenda item around bus stops themselves and the amenities and how we determine what kind of infrastructure we're going to include at bus stops. So as part of this Mountain Line Transit Guidelines, there was a bus stop criteria, kind of a warrants page, a scoring page, and that was included in your packet. Mountain Line developed this scoring to be able to determine the level of amenities so that we would have more of a transparent and equitable implementation across our network. And then as part of the recent review we did on our current bus stops, about 180 bus stops, we reran our bus stops through our own criteria to see how things are falling out to date. And we have found, I apologize, I should have switched. There we are. Sorry about that. Essentially, we do have 3 different bus stop types in our system. The typical sign stop that everyone's probably familiar with, which is literally a sign behind the sidewalk. And then we have a picture here of a standard logo stop, which is a bench with a light. It's kind of a custom design that we have. And then our shelter stop that includes typically a bike rack and a trash receptacle if we're able to fit it all in. So I had some pictures here. But I guess going back to the analysis, we looked at our network and found, ran it through, and really 2/3 of our network, we have the appropriate level of amenities based on the scoring criteria, which we look at projected ridership, we look at land use in the area, Title VI populations, which is, elderly, people of socioeconomic populations. activity centers, what's in the area, libraries, schools, things of that nature, community spaces, parks. We also have something called the Permanent Transit Network, which was part of a prior planning process that identified key corridors in our network that we will endeavor to always keep transit service running. And so we want to continue to build into those areas with capital infrastructure. And then also just the basic exposure to elements, right? When you're standing by the road, if you're on an ADOT Milton or a Route 66, it feels a lot more exposed than maybe being over off of Lone Tree or, some of the other side roads. So those are the areas that we developed the scoring around. And then we looked at our bus stops and found that 2/3 of them actually are appropriately scaled with amenities. We did find we have about 30% of our stops, of which of those numbers, that's about 58 stops. We have about 20 of those. Ideally, we'd like to plus up to be shelters. And then we actually had a few that we have maybe a little more amenities than we need, but that's a bonus. So with that, we really kind of wanted to take a look again at our analysis tool and have found that, it does seem to confirm we've got the right tool in place. And we have been using this tool ongoing ways with various developments that come up. We run the analysis and planning uses the tool, and then we're able to bring that forward as the guiding recommendation to the developer or to a third party. Again, this transit guidelines do not have, they are a guideline document. They're not formally adopted by our city partner. And that is actually a component that Mountain Line is, I think, going to be looking at with our city partner to see how we can better work these guidelines into the city development process so they have a little more teeth. A couple of the factors why some of our bus stops don't have the amenities ideally we'd like is, it's typically the two components. It's budget, which is, probably goes without saying. There's challenges. A typical shelter costs a little over $30,000 now for the package, just the steel package to install. So we're not, it's not small dollars. It's just the way the costs have gone the last years. The other piece is right of way. The bus stop typically sits behind the sidewalk, and typically that's just a little bit beyond where the standard city or ADOT right of way lies. And then as Mountain Line, our authority really is we don't have the authority of eminent domain or any of that process. We work as goodwill partners. We work to talk to the adjacent owner to make the pitch for the value of transit for them to have a bus stop, in front of their business or their location. And, and sometimes we've been successful, at other times we haven't. And, so what we're proposing to do over the next several months, we're putting together, we'll call it an easement acquisition policy that's going to provide some kind of standard process that our staff will go through when we want to put in amenities or bus stops that do go beyond the right of way, and how to work with owners, starting off with that, trying to work through the benefits of transit and that mutual relationship, how we keep up with snow removal, how we, keep our bus stops very well maintained. We have our maintenance team really works hard with our adjacent property owners to keep relationships going. So when we start at that level, and then we could progress through, using a fair market value approach and offering to purchase if that's something, that the Mountain Line deems as warranted for that particular location, and then kind of move beyond that. So we'd be working towards developing a policy that would come to the board in the next, hopefully later this summer, early fall, that would provide some guidelines for staff to be able to kind of more consistently acquire essentially the area we need to develop our bus stops. And with that, I guess I would open it up for any questions or feedback.
And thank you very much. Directors, do we have any questions for Ann at this time?
Yes, I have my hand up, so I'm not sure if anybody's monitoring this is Harris.
Director Harris, go ahead.
Yeah, so I'm just wondering, how do we get, where do the funds come from to build the bus stops, the nice ones with the covering and all of that?
Thank you, Director Harris, for your question. We actually, typically, we don't actually have regularly programmed annual capital funding for new infrastructure. We have regular formula funding through STBG funding that we use to help. It's about $125,000 annually with our local match to cover the shelter rehab, just to keep our facilities in good state of repair. We've relied on just the annual budget, can we squeeze a little bit out, here, opportunistic, basically. We also have gotten grants. A few years ago in 2016, we received a 5310 grant and about 500,000, and we were able to improve, I'm going from memory here, I want to say it was like 25% of our network. Like we did about 20 stops of improvements for ADA and, improved amenities with that one-off grant. So I would say basically it's grants, it's partnerships. If there's a developer and they're able to do the horizontal, for example, we're working on a couple of those right now. And I think that was in this the fiscal impact part. For example, with the Beulah bus extension on the city's project that's happening right now, they're going to build the horizontal. They've designed it, incorporated into the roadway with the bus only lanes that are going in. And then we'll come in later and we're now budgeting for shelters to install, when they're ready. So we really just kind of work on an annual basis with what's happening with development, what's potentially available with annual kind of the budgeting process.
Okay, thank you. Next question from me is there anything that stops you from taking money for these types of projects from businesses?
You mean to help contribute towards building a bus stop?
Correct.
No, we welcome. In fact, that's part of the, when we're in conversation sometimes with a developer, maybe through the city planning process, they've reached out to us to coordinate. Pretty much that's oftentimes they don't actually cut us a check. They'll just do they'll do the construction and design, right? Which is quite a good, that's a cost that they take on. We actually years ago with the Standard is another example on Route 66. They actually did purchase that shelter. They did everything. We just coordinated it and then we worked the legal agreements to make sure it was constructed to our standards and they purchased the right shelter. And then once it was turned over to Mountain Line, we take it on for ownership and maintenance. And those conversations are happening with several different developments in town right now.
Yeah, and I was more or less thinking about already existing, I shouldn't say already existing because developers are existing, but I'm just thinking that in our business community, that may be something that they could get behind. And I don't know if anybody's ever approached them about that because probably a lot of people use will use their business, go downtown or wherever people go. And so I was just thinking, I run a small nonprofit and we always are looking for ways to make money. So I'm just thinking about reaching out to other entities in our community so that all of our bus stops, if we have the space, could look like type 3. So
Thank you,
anyway,
Director
just
Harris.
a thought. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a very creative thought. Thank you.
See, Deborah, do you have any more questions?
No, I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yes. Looks like Director Mayer has his hand up. Director Mayer.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. First of all, and kudos to you and the rest of Mountain Line staff. As I do the math, it's 68% that are at or above the recommended level of amenities. So I think that's a good thing. So my question is really related to those that are not at the recommended level of amenities. Understanding that, there's a whole myriad of reasons why, in terms of cost, right of way, property acquisition, what have you. When you look at those that are not at the recommended level of amenities, is there a particular line or area of the service area that these stops that don't meet the recommended criteria that they're concentrated in? Or are they sort of spread out?
Yes, and I probably could have included, and I can follow up after with sharing information to the board with a map. This hadn't changed since the last update from several years ago, but many of the areas where we ideally want shelters or at least a logo stop are along North 4th Street, where there's challenges with lack of sidewalk, lack of right of way. That's an area that needed more than just the sign stops that we have. And I'm thinking offhand, the other area was on, I think it was it Huntington? I apologize, I can provide a map if that's something that would be helpful for you, Director Mayor. But that's one area that struck me when looking at the overall network. I think there's a few over off of Huntington area. I think over on the east. Well, there was a few on the west side too, over kind of off of University. I'm looking at Estella to see if she's having a good recollection. Yeah.
Those are not the same. Yeah, More Street.
Yeah. It's a lot in that. And again, this goes back to this, just the history. Mountain Line's been very successful, being, some of these stops have been in place since 2003 or 4, early when Mountain Line was the county, right? And, some of them started out, and over time, the Mountain Line was able to work things in as development in town was occurring and as routes were being expanded. And it's just gotten more challenging because I think, Mountain Line's not the only one challenged. We're challenged with fitting in bike and ped infrastructure in our community because of, the challenges with right of way, and that creates a lot of those gaps we're seeing in that infrastructure as well. So you're right, there are certain areas of town, but really it has more to do with the right of way width for the most part, and some of them being more major corridor and things that, quite frankly, are going to need some coordination with the city to be able to be successful. So.
Yeah, appreciate that. Yeah, thank you.
Chair Williams.
Yes.
Sorry, if I can add on, I think there is a tie-in between the question of Director Harris and the remarks of Director Mayer, in that we have put stops of some sort within every right of way that we can access. And we are now at a point where we do need the business owner at these stops to be cooperative and work with us. But they're challenged too. So if you think about maybe the stop on 4th Street, in order for us to put a better structure in there, a better bus stop, the shaded structure that Director Harris referenced, we would need to take away parking spots from that business as just one example. And so, as Ann said, there are space issues and constraints around some of these, but it is about the partnership with the businesses, or in some places, the residents at some of our stops. And I know we'll be looking at easement acquisition in the coming months, because right now we depend on the good graces of our neighbors. And we know that we need to take it one step further because we need these stops to be improved in many locations around town. So just wanted to add that and make sure everyone understood that tie-in between the two comments today.
Thank you, Heather, for that further clarification. Vice Chair Vasquez, you have your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I too would like to see a map of the different stops. I know that's really important when talking about equity in terms of geographical equity in town. I recognize that there's some issues with the easements and that needs to be addressed, and the team's working on that. Some of the areas that I've seen that would need a shelter besides 4th Street was right across from the bus barn. That would be great if we could get a shelter for bus staff. When we had the electrical bus unveiling last month, and I was leaving and it was snowing, and there was one of our Mountain Lion staff waiting to use the bus, and there was no shelter. And it's like, if there's a place that we need to focus on, that would be one of them. The other area that I just wanted to put out there is looking at King Street, and the Health and Human Services building for the county currently doesn't have a stop near it. The nearest one is on North 4th Street, and so folks have to walk from North Country basically to Health and Human Services. considering all the county services that are provided in that building, I think we need to find a way to get a bus stop there and get a route to there. And so I'm willing on the county side to help with community initiative funds if need be, but I really encourage us to get a bus stop there, considering most of the folks that are using those services are probably using public transportation. And so we need to make it as easy as possible for them. So other than that, great presentation, starting to see the connections between where we're at with the different stops and where we need to be. And like I said, the only thing missing from the presentation was a map for the visual of actual bus stops of the 3 different types. So thank you.
Great, thank you, Chair Vasquez. And I would just echo the idea around the map. I really appreciate the scoring rubric that was included in our packets. And I'm not sure if it's possible or if it makes any sense, but it would be interesting to see how that score fits with, like on the map with those locations that Director Mayor and Vice Chair Vasquez brought up, like how those locations actually scored in the rubric in relation to the location on the map. Might be a helpful thing to look at in the future, but I think the rubric, the scoring criteria certainly should be very helpful to Mountain Lion as far as where to invest time and resources and partnership development moving forward. So I really appreciate that that particular part of the information that was shared in the packet. So Anne, thank you very much. Seeing that there's no action today on this item, it's really for information and discussion. I think we'll move forward with our next agenda item, if that's okay with the rest of the board. And that's item number 12. This is the Mountain Express service for the 2022-23 year. And Estella Hollander, our mobility part planner, is going to be presenting this today. Estella.
Morning all. Thank you, Chair Williams, members of the board. Estella Hollander, mobility planner with Mountain Lion. And correct, I am providing an update of this previous Mountain Express season that ended at the end of February. So this service, Mountain Express, this is a seasonal route serving Arizona Snowbowl. So it starts at our downtown connection center, stops at a free park and ride at Flagstaff High School, then goes along 180, stops at the base of Snowbowl Road, and then continues up to the mountain and stops at Hart Prairie. So this service serves kind of between right between Christmas and New Year. So this year was December 26th through January 1st. And then it's on weekends in January and February. This year, we did not serve on January 15th as well as February 26th due to inclement weather. So it was a little bit of a shorter season this year. This year, service was every 30 minutes, and it is free to ride. So passengers can just hop on. They do not have to pay any sort of fare. And Snowbowl funds this route. So they provide funding to Mountain Lion, which is based on an approved cost per hour and cost per mile methodology. So this is a ridership graph starting from 2015 to present day. And the red line on there shows the total snowfall, which is sometimes kind of interesting to see how that can play into ridership. However, in general, ridership has many factors into why people might ride a route. For example, in 2018, 2019, which was kind of the most ridership to date of the service, we did have 20-minute frequency. This year was 30-minute frequency. In 2018, there was also a really large marketing push. There was Snowbowl did a ton of marketing. There was also even some advertisement kind of before you got onto 180, these big ADOT signs saying, you know, take the free park and ride. So there's just a little bit more of a push, but now we are in a bit of kind of a post-COVID era where in general transit ridership has decreased. However, this year we did provide a little bit over 8,200 rides, which was a 12% increase compared to previous years. So as I mentioned, this year was 30-minute frequency, as well as we did provide some vouchers, some $10 vouchers, so people could get can use these vouchers at Arizona Snowbowl. But compared to that 2018 year, there were vouchers provided every year. So again, a variety of factors, but just a few points to note. So these are boardings by stop. So DCC, so our Downtown Connection Center, and these are the percentage of where people are boarding to ride the route. So this year we did provide service to the Fort Valley Park and Ride. So this is at the base of Snowbowl. And we wanted to provide that service. This wasn't asked from Snowbowl, and we wanted to be good partners. The last 2 years, we did not provide service. This was not a request from Snowbowl. I think again, kind of due to COVID, that lot at the base of Snowbowl wasn't used as much. It's kind of the overflow parking for Arizona Snowbowl, but we did provide it. And I think it's interesting to point out that the boardings at the Downtown Connection Center as well as Flagstaff High School are a little bit lower. So that means that people, you know, didn't board in town and ride the route. So I think definitely interesting, and we'll continue and we'll provide this data to Arizona Snowbowl. And it is a recommendation for next year that we don't provide service to the Fort Valley Park and Ride. It's not, it doesn't align as well with Mountain Lion's goal of really trying to reduce the amount of cars on Highway 180. So next steps, we will be discussing with Snowbowl on service levels as well as frequency this summer. So going to discuss about kind of if we're able to come back to that 20-minute frequency. In part, it was due to Mountain Lion staffing, but we are taking a proactive approach and trying to continue to recruit drivers to be able to get back to 20-minute service. And then the number of days, so kind of what the number of service days kind of between that Christmas and New Year's, as well as on January and February weekends, so determine that, and serving the Fort Valley Park and Ride. So it is Mountain Lion's recommendation that we do not serve that park and ride to really encourage people to ride the route in town to reduce the number of vehicles on Highway 180. And so that is the end of my presentation. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Stella, thank you very much. I do have a question. First of all, I really appreciate everything you've shared today in the data there. But a data point I'm interested in knowing is, is there any effort to get feedback from those using the Mountain Express service, like a survey or something that helps collect information from the actual riders using the service in your efforts of improving the quality of that and usership?
Thank you for the question. From my understanding, we do not provide a kind of a post-rider survey, but something to think about in the future. I know Snowbowl, they always provide, if you buy a lift ticket, you get a survey, an email. So maybe there's a way to partner in that aspect. That's just an idea. So we can maybe discuss that with Snowbowl on potential opportunities. So thank you for the suggestion.
Thank you, Estella. Director Mayer, you have your hand up. You have a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to Estella for that presentation. Appreciate the presentation and the information you're sharing. More of a comment than anything. I know that in looking at the data and sort of seeing the snowfall totals and things like that, I think that there's a lot that comes into play in terms of why someone might choose to take the shuttle. Based on road conditions and a whole host of other reasons. But at some point, I know it's probably too early, but I'd like to see, if Snowbowl might be willing to provide, the number of lift tickets that are sold. So we sort of have an idea of the share of people who are taking that trip versus, the total lift ticket sales for that period. I think that might be some interesting stuff to, interesting data point to overlay that what data that you have already. So, but yeah, thank you for that.
Thank you for the suggestion. I agree. That would be interesting to see kind of the ratio. So we'll definitely, we can inquire with Snowbowl if that data is available to us.
I have a question.
Vice Chair Vasquez, let you know that Director Harris has her hand up right now.
Oh, sure, I can wait.
With her going
Please.
first.
Yes, please.
Yeah.
Let her go first.
Yep, Director Harris.
Okay, thank you. The report was very interesting. By any chance, can you talk a little bit about the kind of advertising that Snowbowl does for that particular service? And I'm asking specifically because when my son was, before he could drive, he was snowboarding. And so I hated having to have to take him up to the mountain, go back, come back down, go back up, get him, come back down. So do they advertise that to, you know, the city and the community so that, you know, a lot of kids snowboard these days, but they don't drive? Okay.
Thank you for
Just a
the question.
Yeah.
Yes, Snowball has been a great partner with marketing. They do have a larger reach than Mountain Line does. I know Jackie, our marketing communications director, often says, you know, people may not follow Mountain Line social media because it's such like a niche, you know, Flagstaff transit agency, but people are maybe more likely to follow Snowball, like people who live in Phoenix as well as Flagstaff. So Snowball has been, they do advertise the line on their website and have been pushing on their social media. But I think with marketing, of course, there's always more you can do. And so we always do discuss with Snowball before the season on our marketing efforts. So we are always open to suggestions if there are any additional ideas. But this year, I know we did do like marketing on our buses, our social media, Snowball social media. And I don't know if Jackie is on the line. Oh, I see her camera picked up. So Jackie, if you have anything to add, feel free.
Yeah.
Thank you, Estella. Yes, Jackie Lenners, I'm the marketing communications director. And Estella pretty much got it head on. We really do, our role is getting to the locals, as you were speaking about, Member Harris. With one of the big messages that we share is, hey, parents, don't spend your time driving up and down that mountain when we can do that driving for you. So that is one of the big messages that we share locally, which, certainly I think locals are a good part of our market, although many locals are set in their ways and habits of how they access Snowball. And so we do really rely on Snowball to help us with the marketing in Phoenix, as, you know, I wouldn't expect a resident of Phoenix to be following the transit system in Flagstaff on social media. And so we've talked to them a lot about ways that we could see of expanding that marketing and really making sure that people know that this is an option and understand it as they're planning their trip to Snowball.
Great, thank you.
You're welcome.
Vice Chair Vasquez, you were going to ask a question earlier.
Yeah, I was curious in terms of how much does Snowball contribute for this service, for this shuttle ride?
Thank you for the question. I'm trying to remember. And I'm happy to provide a follow-up with the exact amount. I want to say, sorry.
I think he just wants to know if
Oh, sorry. Yes, they pay for all of the service. Sorry, I thought you wanted the exact dollar amount. They do pay 100% of the service. And it's based on a methodology of cost per hour. So that includes like driver wages as well. And then as well as cost per mile. So a percentage of that. So that includes, the wear and tear on the vehicles, gas or diesel, etc. So there's a variety of different factors that go into that cost. But yeah, they do pay 100% of the service.
Great, thank you. I just, in light of some of the current conversations about other constructions in town and contributions to the bus line, it's nice to see that there's a business in town that's actually partnered with Mountain Line and helped create that line and pay for those services. So that's why I was curious about the number, just to see how much it is or how they contribute, in which ways is that calculated as we're moving forward with other conversations. So thank you.
Excellent questions, directors. Really appreciate your engaging in this discussion today. Estella, thank you for your presentation, and Jackie for your added comments in response to the questions of the board today. Really do appreciate it.
Thank you.
Moving along in our agenda today, the next couple of items are progress reports. One is the delegations of authority. Heather, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chair Williams. We don't have a report on the delegations of authority. If any of the items included in that report are of interest to the board, you can ask us to create a discussion or action item at a future agenda. But I do have a couple of current events that I can jump right into and share with you. There was a report included in the packet, but I have several remarks that I need to clarify because things change quickly here at Mountain Lion, and so some of the information is now out of date. Unfortunately, we have dropped down to 46 staff members within our driver pool, so we're about 4 positions short again. This is really natural attrition as people have left the community or retired. So operations only has 3 extra team members to help fill in between bids as we go into summer. This is specific to the first bullet of my report in the packet. Regarding the HR manager position, the interviewee pulled out after the first interview, reporting he has accepted a position in another community. So we are back to the drawing board for our human resources position. And just as a reminder, we normally have 3 people and we have 1. So we continue to struggle with HR, but Josh Stone, Management Services Director, and Sam Short, our Safety Manager, have really stepped up and are managing those functions so that our staff have the support that they need. The electric bus will go into service. The date in the report is incorrect. It's on April 26th. So next Wednesday, we will start the day out with a quick celebration at the Downtown Connection Center and a big send-off to that electric bus in service. It will rotate around the community, serving all of our routes. So everyone in every area of the community will have an opportunity to jump on that bus, and we'll have more news to share on that in the coming days. A couple other quick things. Our second electric bus, it was, I think I reported in March, was going to be delayed anywhere from 3 to 6 months. It is now only being delayed by about 2 months. We actually expect that it could arrive as early as the end of May. We're very excited to have that new build completed. Our fleet team goes out in early May to inspect it, and then it will be scheduled for delivery if everything goes well with the inspection. As you may recall, that vehicle did have a serious recall on it by the manufacturer. That recall issue has been addressed. So the risk of that bus or the battery compartment fire has been eliminated by the manufacturing company and been cleared for build. The electric bus will be making 2 other appearances in our community. We will be at Earth Day on Saturday, April 22nd, inviting the community out to take a good look at the electric bus. And of course, we're reminding members of our community that they can use transit to get to that Earth Day event as a way to contribute and celebrate Earth Day. And then additionally, we will have the electric bus at the STEM celebration at Fort Tuthill on April 29th. And then I had a couple that did not make it into the report that I wanted to share with you. Sorry about that. Staff has recently received and reviewed the approved traffic impact analysis for phase 1 of the NIH hospital relocation. This was mentioned at last week's planning and zoning meeting, and we did receive a copy of it and we've started reviewing it. The TIA does show that there may be potential delays at 3 intersections along Beulah, and that does affect several of our routes. So we're going to continue reviewing that and then confirm with staff that we understand the findings of that TIA so that we can provide public comment to City Council at upcoming meetings when this item will again be reviewed. And then I have 3 quick congratulations. First to Josh on the 2022 financial audit. He really is a fantastic team member, and his detailed approach to daily work is really reflected in that audit report. It was a challenging year with Josh assuming his new role as Management Services Director in the middle of the year. And to really have only that one comment is a real testament to Josh's leadership and abilities. I would like to congratulate Mitch. He presented today. Mitch has recently taken on a full-time position here with Mountain Line, so you will see more of him. Mitch has been serving part-time for much of the last year as our Montoya Fellow. We're excited about his interest in further development within our team. And then one other anniversary to share with you, we talked about Teresa early on in the meeting, celebrating 5 years. Ken Lasinski also celebrating 9 years of service at Mountain Line. Ken started out as a transit bus operator here for us and has done a variety of jobs, including training functions, and is now serving as a scheduling coordinator. And Jim said to share with you, the irony of ironies is that the person who trained Ken Lasinski in his first transit job in the Valley area is the same person who trained Jim Wagner when he was a transit operator in the Valley area. So transit is a small family, and we just move people around, but I'm excited to celebrate Ken's anniversary. And with that, those are all of the announcements I have to share today.
Thank you, Heather. And reemphasize the kudos and congratulations to Josh, Mitch, Teresa, and Ken. Great accomplishments, and glad to have you a part of the Mountain Line organization. Any other comments from directors at this time based on these updates? Hearing none, this is the point in our meeting today where we will be entering into an executive session. And as noted earlier in the meeting, the beginning, that executive session is not open to the public. That being said, I would consider a motion from the board to convene an executive session pursuant to Arizona Revised Statute to discuss items that will be shared to us through the Mountain Line attorney and on a couple of items involving NAPTA. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
I'll move to enter into executive session.
Thank you, Director Mayor. Do I have a second?
Second.
Thank you, Director Vasquez. All those in favor of entering into an executive session at this time, please signal by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Hearing none, we will now enter into an executive session. Once we finish the executive session, we'll reconvene to our public meeting, and which time we will close out our meeting for Mountain Line this month. We have everybody back, Rhonda? I think you are muted. Say that again. I think you're now unmuted.
Yes, thank you. I believe everyone is back.
Do you want to reshare the slideshow?
Great, thank you very much. We are moving on with our agenda now that we're out of executive session. This is items for committee and staff. Our next meeting, just to remind everybody, is a joint meeting with TAC and the board of directors. It is Wednesday. Is it Wednesday, May 17th, Heather? Is that the right date?
Yes, yes.
It's important to note that this is in person. It will be at the Flagstaff Aquaplex and in the community room at 1702 North 4th Street here in Flagstaff. Our meeting will begin at 10 a.m. and go to 2 p.m. that afternoon. Our agenda may include, but certainly won't be limited to, a variety of items: presentation, strategic plan review, key performance indicators, review of our mission, vision, goals, guiding principles, staff development and succession planning, and so forth. So looking forward to that. It was the last time we got together with both of our groups in person was a year ago, last May. And it was good to, for the first time in my time with the board, get to meet people face to face as opposed to the world of Zoom. So I'm looking forward to that. Our next meeting after that will be June 21st, 2023. That will be a hybrid in-person Zoom meeting based here in Flagstaff. With that, there are other items that you want to cover on this list, Heather, before we adjourn?
No, sir, that's everything for today.
Sorry, I didn't hear you.
No, that's everything for today. Thank you, Chair Williams.
All right. Any other last comments from board members before I move to adjourn? That said, I will move forward with adjourning today's meeting and look forward to our joint meeting in May.